Yeah, this is Macho Man Mario coming with you with Switch news. Come and check it out. Yeah.
Nintendo has finally announced the Switch 2, and in addition to a ton of exciting game drops and quality of life system updates, the gaming giant is experiencing a bit of backlash when it comes to the pricing of the system. Which is a shame because this is shaping up to be one of the coolest systems Nintendo has released so far. Not to mention the game selection for year one, like Mario Kart World, an open world Mario Kart where for once you can actually drive off the course, which is absolutely catering to my inner 8-year-old that would drive off the course in Royal Raceway just to compare the Peach's Castle in the one in Mario 64. And I would be lying if I said I hated the idea of an attachable camera now being part of Mario Party, being able to watch your friends now grow to hate you in its potato 10 frames per second 420 resolution glory. However, I'm not really here to talk about the system price because there really are smarter people out on YouTube that can break that down and tell you if it's a fair price or not. And with the addition of stuff like Nintendo Alarmo, I really wasn't expecting them to be the working class heroes that, they have been for the last few years. However, there is one part of the announcement that I've not seen as many people talk about that worried me a little bit more than some of the other things. Nintendo has announced that their Switch 2 physical games will, in essence, be a code that allows the digital download to be unlocked on your console, in which the game itself downloads to your console and then you can use the cartridge as basically a key card to allow you to play the said digital game. And to me, that's not okay. It's no secret that I'm a retro gamer, and I do use gamer lightly. I'm more of a collector than anything, but I love collecting the old cartridge-based stuff, whether it be NES, Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64, and especially the Game Boy. And something about a game cartridge has always been just something special to me, and part of the reason why I feel like classic Pokemon on the Game Boy and Game Boy Color or Super Mario 64 will always hold a special and magical place in my heart. Technology was improving at a rapid pace in the 90s, and the idea of a fully immersive digital world no longer seemed like such science fiction, or only for those with a supercomputer the size of a New York City flat. Now, I could simply put this small cartridge into a device that fits into my hand and explore the region of Kanto or Johto. Or plug in another cartridge into my 64 and experience this vast 3D world that felt like it was full of endless possibilities. And all these years later, I can still do the exact same thing. I can still grab my Game Boy, plug a cartridge in, and I'm off to the races. I can still play those games without an internet connection and without Nintendo's express consent. And now I know I'm starting to sound like an old man here, but I am working up to a point. And let me clarify, I'm not slamming digital gaming, okay? I own a lot of the digital games, and I use the Nintendo Online service a lot more than you'd think, because frankly, it's a lot easier to boot up the 64 channel, play a couple rounds of Mario Kart on that, than it is to go all the way back into my office, clean out an area, swap out cables just for a quick little 10-minute gaming session. And, I use Spotify a lot, and I actually use Spotify as a really good example here. Say one of my favorite bands, the Ramones. If the Ramones estate decided to take all of their music off of Spotify, I could still go to my local record shop and repurchase that collection. And now, yes, it's going to cost me a pretty penny, but at the same time, I have the ability to still listen to the Ramones. I just don't have the ability to listen to them on Spotify. Spotify isn't stopping me from listening to the Ramones. I have other official ways of listening to them, whether it be vinyl records they pressed, CDs, tapes, other official legal ways of listening to this band. Same thing with Nintendo. If they decide they're going to take Alleyway off the Nintendo eShop from the Game Boy channel, fine, I'll just grab my cartridge and plug it in and play this honestly really fun Breakout clone without Nintendo's permission and without an internet connection. My sister, she's about 10 years younger than me, and her nostalgia system is the Wii. And even she understands the value of having these physical copies of these games. That way you can actually go back and revisit this stuff whenever you like and without the need of third-party and potentially illegal software. I remember the Wii. The Wii isn't really my nostalgia system, but it is for my sister. And with how big the Switch system is, I can only imagine that the Switch 2 is also going to be extremely popular, and that in 20 years from now, let's say they want to play on their original console, like I like playing on my original console. So they go dig out their Switch 2 from storage, and let's say they pull out Donkey Kong Bonanza, and they plug it into their system, and they get a little thing pop up that says, hey, the Switch 2 servers are down, and you can no longer play this game. Why? Because the game isn't actually on the cartridge, it's just a key card that allows you to play their digital download, but because the server no longer holds the game, you are no longer allowed to play it. And I know that sounds like a huge what if, and it sounds like I'm really making up stuff. But we've already seen this happen with PlayStation. And PlayStation, in basically so many words, essentially reminded their customers that you just don't own anything you buy in this digital age. And not only that, it's currently being reported that the physical copies are going to cost more than the digital, which does make sense because for years I've honestly wondered why digital copies of games cost the exact same as the physical copies, even though there's actual material going into the physical copies that should make them more expensive. But Nintendo is just going a completely different direction and not only raising the prices of their digital games, but also making their physical copies more expensive without even providing the game data on the cartridge. I feel like I'm going insane! And again, I'm not trying to go down a route where I'm talking about the price of games, because there's other smart people on YouTube that can break that down and explain to you if it's worth it or not. In my opinion, I don't think it's egregious. But I do start to care if I'm going to be investing this much money into something that, again, isn't going to be future-proof. If I can't access it 20 years later, I don't think that's a good investment. Me personally. The Switch 2 is poised to be, objectively, the best console Nintendo has made. Between its internal upgrade systems, larger and better form factor, its list of amazing year one games and backwards compatibility all the way up to the NES, and even more ways to connect with your friends without extra services like FaceTime and Discord. However, Nintendo's stance on physical games really isn't something I feel like should be ignored. And for years, I've actually compared Nintendo to Apple. Both have their loyal fan base that thinks they can do no wrong, and they've both built their own walled gardens that don't really play well with others. Take for instance Soul Calibur 2, released in 2002 on the Xbox, PlayStation 2, and GameCube. However, on the GameCube version, you could actually play as Link as a fighter, where he was missing from the PlayStation and Xbox versions. AKA, sure, we'll play nice with you, and you can have Link, but he can only be on our system, he can't be on theirs. That feels kind of reminiscent of the early days of Apple versus Google when it came to their services being on the iPhone. And much like Nintendo, Apple also gets criticized for using outdated technology while their fan base explains it's not the numbers on the paper, it's how you optimize it, that's what matters. Apple was the first major company to release a phone without a headphone jack, and after years of laughing, Samsung wound up doing the same thing. Apple started removing extras from their box like charging bricks and other little things of the sort, and now it's rare for you to find anything extra inside that box other than a USB-C cable, and even then you are like thanking the corporate gods for providing you a little free something that cost them like $2 to make. And we've seen this some with PlayStation and Xbox already. Both of them have, digital-only versions of their most recent consoles, which to me I felt was fine. If you don't see the value in your video games and you see it more like a rental, and you don't want the large collection, you don't want physical evidence of all the money you've invested, fine, that is an option for you. But if you're someone like me that likes to be able to look at their bookshelf and see all that money that they've spent, well, cool, that option is still available as well. But when companies get to the point where they start making physical media that doesn't even contain the media that it says it contains, that to me feels like a scam. I'm sorry, it feels like a scam. And I want to make this point really clear. I think digital gaming is really cool. I think online services where you pay a monthly or yearly fee and you get an access to, a wide breadth of games is really awesome. It's a great investment. And I like the ease of just being able to decide, hey, I'm going to purchase this game, I'm going to hop on their web store and make that purchase and play it right here, right now. Great. I love that. I want that to stay. And much like Spotify, if any of these games or songs get removed from this service, I have the ability to go back and play them in official, legal ways that was intended. Though I am forever an optimist, okay? I've seen us nerds band together to do some crazy stuff, like Sonic. We bullied Paramount into making Sonic look better, and they got rewarded with multiple sequels, a Paramount Plus series, without it, any chance of slowing down anytime soon. Xbox even got a bucket of ice dunked on them after the initial press release of the Xbox One was heavily criticized for its camera, lack of game sharing, and constant internet connectivity, forcing them to make those changes before its release. Nintendo, however, is not one to listen to its fan base cries, so I know complaining here isn't going to make that much of a difference, but I am maybe hoping that it sparks a larger conversation in the gaming community about game preservation, because, I feel like we might be at the cusp of an era where that's going to be a lot harder to do. In a world where Best Buy is no longer selling CDs and DVDs and physical media in general is just being relegated to a niche collector's market, gaming was one of the last holdouts when it came to going fully digital. However, I feel like we just witnessed the start of a fully digital gaming future. But what do you think? Sound off in the comments below. Do you think I'm overreacting? Do you think Nintendo is going to walk back what they said? Or do you think that, we just need to kind of prepare for what's to come because the future is now, oh man. And if you like seeing me make videos like this, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. This was the first one I've tried to do like this, and it was kind of fun. It was a little stressful. Who knows how the editing is, but if you want me to make some more, just let me know. And until next time,
Yeah, it seems like the Switch is trying to bait and switch old Macho Man Mario. Yeah. Can't even own the own copy. I have to have the fucking internet. Yeah, Macho Man ain't paying for no fiber or Spectrum. No, Mario goes to the coffee shop and gets his fucking internet for free.